Hello, it is I, Captain Virtue Signal. We got another episode today of Bookerman. Respect you, Bookerman. And we're sponsored by Swedish Fish. Swedish fish are very good. Also sponsored by Anchor, the app for making podcasts. Would you like to make a podcast just like your hero, Carrie here? And also probably your other hero, Sora? Then go ahead. You download the Anchor app and you can do it completely for free. Anyway, today's Bookerman is very strange, very special, if you will. We're going to be talking about Slapnuts! We're going to be talking about Jim Cornette! And we most certainly will be talking about the NWA! Yes, we are going to talk about the NWA Invasion of 1998. An invasion that is pretty much all but forgotten about because it was pretty... Well, it was shit. Okay, it was shit on a shingle. It was bad. It was very poorly done. It was poorly executed. It was poorly planned. And it only seemed to exist to fill airtime. Now, there's a story behind this. Now, before I begin, I would suggest you go watch the Wrestling Bios video on the NWA Invasion. Because it tells us a better story than I ever could about how it came about and what actually happened in it. But I will give a brief summary of events in case you don't want to go watch that. Although you should. Wrestling Bio is a great wrestling channel anyway. So just a shout out to. Basically, the backstory is that Howard Brody and this other guy, I can't remember his name, but like Don something. They were calling Vince McMahon for a year to try to do a business deal with the NWA. Open the forbidden door, if you will. And so what happened was eventually, after about a year in 97, first Jeff Jarrett came and kind of shoot promo where he buried WCW because he returned to WWF and he was been there before as a country singer gimmick. He buried WWF. He buried Shawn Michaels, tried to. Bret and Stone Cold buried Mongo McMichael and Deborah, stuff like that. Anyway, a few months later, Jim Cornette was cutting these shoot style promo Cornette's commentary, which were actually like him ranting, basically. What I'm kind of doing here sometimes, especially in Weary with Carrie. But it was legit stuff that he felt like about WCW or about Phil Mushnick. There's a name you should probably Google. And at the end of the year in 97, he actually cut one that was about the rebirth of the NWA and how he wanted to see tradition back. And Jim Cornette got roped into this. And what happened was started out with Jeff Jarrett, Barry Windham, who was in the gimmick of the New Black Texas Point, and Bradshaw, JBL, whatever you want to call him, who was his partner in the Blue Blackjacks. They made a team. They made a sort of contingent. Had a match for the vacant NWA North American title that Jarrett won with some help from Cornette. Then they brought in the Rock and Roll Express a week later, and they had their tag titles, and they won matches by cheating. And basically for the next few months, this group just basically won matches by cheating through Cornette, or they eventually lost the tag titles to Headbangers. Dan Severn, who was the NWA champion, and had been for some time at this point, came and joined the company after WrestleMania. And he basically, this whole thing, about like 6 months into its lifespan, was already kind of dead in the water. Jeff Jarrett left the group and went back to being the real Double J, Jeff Jarrett. Basically the character he was playing before, although a few months later he'd get a new character. The Don't Piss Me Off Jarrett, basically the proto Slapnuts, if you will. Or you might as well just be Slapnuts, because basically the same character. But, and then by the time of the Brawl for All, which, you might want to go look into as well, this shit was basically done. And it was never that good. It was not good at all. It was really poorly executed. And you couldn't expect the WWF to put over this company that big, but like they treated ECW better in one night than they did the NWA during this whole storyline. And my opinion, if you're going to bring him in, at least do something good with him. So I'm going to rebook it. Starting with, we're going to go back to Jeff Jarrett's promo, and it's going to change a little bit. Now, in the real promo, when he talks about WCW, he can still do that. He can talk about WCW and Mongo and Deborah, but don't go into Brett and Sean, and don't go into Austin. Not only because if you talk about Austin, you might bury your own career, but just because at this point, you do want to be a heel. Also, his attire, instead of having him come out with the long blonde ponytail, he's going to have the crew cut that he would get like a year later. He's going to have the slap nuts look, if you will. He's going to have the goatee that he would have. He's going to start looking slap nuts. He's going to have blue jeans, and he's going to be wearing a black collared shirt, but it's going to have the NWA logo on it. That's going to be important. Now, this would be, in this promo, would be basically the same promo, to half of it would be, but when he gets to WWF, he will say that WWF treated him like a joke, and they didn't treat him the way he should have been treated, and they tried to make him a joke. But then he looks at Vince McMahon, and he says, you know damn well that you can't make, you know damn well you can't, you tried to make an embarrassment. You know damn well I was trying to be embarrassed, but y'all couldn't, but nobody could embarrass Jeff Jarrett. Nobody could stop Jeff Jarrett. Something along those lines. And he says, instead of talking about the money he's making, he just says, you know, I work for this company, but I won't be their monkey. And don't piss me off. Basically, the beginning of that. Because we're still in the Attitude Era. So this would work perfectly. Then the next week on the show, we have a random match with the Jesse James, the real Double J, where he's coming out for a match. And if you don't know, basically stole the gimmick of Jeff Jarrett after they left, and it's the Road Dogg. And he gets hit by Jeff Jarrett, who comes out now in the similar gear he was wearing. So now he's wearing a collared dress shirt without sleeves, and he has it unbuttoned here, and he's got his jeans, and he comes out and he whacks him with a guitar, as he would do later on. And this is the start of a feud. And the next week, he basically cuts a promo saying the only reason he did this is because Road Dogg tried to take his gimmick, and even though he hated that gimmick, he doesn't like people trying to take things from him, trying to be him, trying to, make money off of his back and his labor. So, okay, so we have a match at Bad Blood in your house. It's 97 October. I should have specified that. Sorry about that. October 97, it was Bad Blood. First match, Jeff Jarrett. And it's a guitar and a pole match because the feud's been built around the guitar. So Jarrett wins it about, let's say, 8 minutes, and he beats him with the guitar. And then we continue on. The next night on Raw, he actually gets a win over the Patriot in a short match where the Patriot goes for Uncle Sam and he reverses it and lands on his back so his shoulders down and gets a 1-2-3. And after the match, he whacks the Patriot with a guitar. And in the storyline, we're told this is how the Patriot got injured. Although in real life, I think he got injured somehow, I don't know how, but around this time. But this will be to write him off. And then instead of having Steve Blackman join the USA team, Jeff Jarrett joins. To kind of build tension between that team because he's a heel. And the rest of them, I think, except Mark Merrow, I think was a heel, but had like 2 heels. And at the end of the match, Vader will accidentally run into Jarrett and get him eliminated. And then Vader will be left alone. He'll lose to the team. And the next night on Raw, that will lead him to having a match. And Jarrett, no, not the next night. It will start a feud between the two. It leads into the next pay-per-view, which will be, what was it? Oh, yeah, D-Generation X in your house. Which Jarrett will win by, he will catch Vader, like with a sort of power bomb when he goes for his Vader bomb, like got him his little hook in his leg and put him down. But after the match, he goes for the guitar swing, but it's stopped by a debuting fan, who's Steve Blackman, who pulls the guitar, and he breaks the guitar in half, and that's the beginning of Steve Blackman's career. But this kind of ends that little association thing. This is the way to introduce Jarrett. But to continue on, we still have the promo, the Cornette commentary that talks about tradition. And then a week later on Raw, we have a segment where it's Jeff Jarrett. Oh, wait, let me see. How are we going to do this? All right, so what's going to happen is there's going to be a scheduled match between Jeff Jarrett, I did it wrong, sorry about that, Jeff Jarrett and Flash Funk, a.k.a. 2 Cold Scorpio. And this match, as it's about to begin, out comes the new Blackjacks. Out comes Bradshaw and Barry Windham, and they start beating the shit out of the 2 Cold Scorpio. And Jeff Jarrett comes over, he looks at him, and they start beating the crowd, and then they hold him, and he hits him with a guitar, like Honky Tonk Man did back in the day. And with the Heart Foundation. And then out comes Jim Cornette, and he holds all their hands up, and then Jim Cornette says, "You're going to see tradition whether you like it or not." And that's going to be kind of the proto-beginning of the NWA. And this would be the last Raw of 97. Now we go into 98, and we have a segment where it's these three in the ring. Same three men. And Jim Cornette. And Jim Cornette says that what you're seeing is invasion. He says, we've seen a lot of invasions recently in wrestling. Well, this is another type of invasion. This is the NWA. We're going to inject tradition into the World Wrestling Federation. Even if we have to do it forcefully, we will. Because this company's been lacking in it for way too long. And he says, he pulls out the NWA North American title, and he also brings out the Rock and Roll Express, who he says are the NWA Tag Team Champions. He says, tonight, we're going to have 2 matches here. He says, the Rock and Roll Express are going to defend their titles against the New Blackjacks. And he puts over New Blackjacks, Jim Cornette says, these are 2 guys, 2 great talents that have in their blood the wrestling, the NWA. You know, Bradshaw, he's the son-in-law of, I forgot, I think Blackjack Lanza. Yeah, son-in-law Lanza. Think so. And Blackjack Mulligan is the father of Barry Windham. But these guys haven't been given the opportunity. Well, I'm going to give it to them tonight. They're going to get a tag team title shot that they deserve. He says, and Jeff Jarrett, I'm going to give you the first ever NWA North American Championship. But Jeff gets the bag and he says, hold on just a damn minute. He says, now I am a guy who likes to run my mouth, but I am about tradition. And in tradition, you don't get handed the title, you defend it. So how about anybody in the back, I don't care who you are, what you represent, come and face me for this championship here. We'll have a vacant title match, and we'll have the first ever NWA North American Champion. And of course, the person who answers is Too Cold Scorpio. Maybe you were thinking Road Dogg Jesse James coming. No, he will factor in the story later. Okay, so we have a nice little match. Too Cold Scorpio briefly flash films because of promo about how I came up in extreme promotions, but I know about tradition too, and I have been I've fought for NWA titles before, and I want to be the NWA North American Champion. He says, Jeff Jarrett, by the way, I don't care about pissing you off. I care about kicking your ass. You know, that would be the way the match starts, like a little promo. Give him about 10 minutes, and throughout the match, it's back and forth, but Jarrett keeps working the leg of Scorpio. He keeps hitting like some knee breakers and stuff, and eventually, Scorpio gets Jarrett on the ground, and he goes for the tumbleweed, which is his flipping moonsault leg drop, and he hits it. But then he kind of leans over and holds his leg for just about 3 seconds, and he kind of crawls over on Jarrett and covers him, but Jarrett kicks out because he took too long to get there. And so he picks up Jarrett to try to get him to go for something again. The leg gets out, and Jarrett catches him and debuts a stroke, his reverse Russian leg sweep, and pins him 1, 2, 3, giving us our first NWA North American Champion, Jeff Jarrett. Then later in the show, we have the Rock and Roll Express versus the New Blackjacks. 10-minute match too, pretty basic stuff. In the end, it's Blackjack Bradshaw who gets pinned, or just Bradshaw, JB, or whatever. After the match, he looks a little upset, and Barry Windham helps him up, and 2 of them are kind of like literally complaining out of nowhere. Barry Windham just gives him a big boot, and then him and the Rock and Roll Express beat the crap out of him, and he puts him on the top rope and does a superplex. And then he gets a mic and says, you were never worthy of being a Blackjack or being in the NWA. So this is our first defection, and it's a little weird to do it the first time. This is basically to establish, you know, some enemies of the NWA already. So next week on Raw, we kind of jumped the gun a little bit, I guess, so to speak. And it's going to be a huge 8-man tag plan where it's Jeff Jarrett, Windham, the Rock and Roll Express against Vader, Too Cold Scorpio, Bradshaw, and who we got, like Bob. Let's say Bob Holly. I'm trying to think who's up on the roster this way. Bob Holly. And before the match can begin, though, out comes Cactus Jack and Chainsaw Charlie. And almost everybody starts leaving the ring, and because Cactus he hits Scorpio with a chair shot. No, he hits Bradshaw with a chair shot to the back, and he falls out. And he puts the chair down, and Chainsaw Charlie starts revving up the chainsaw, but then he puts it down. He says, we're not leaving this ring until the New Age Outlaws come out and give us a fight. And then, out of nowhere, in the ring jumps Jeff Jarrett. And while the chainsaw's down, he hits Terry Funk with the guitar right over the head. Il kabong! Foley gets up and he's getting ready to hit him with a chair, but out of nowhere, the Rock and Roll Express come and start attacking him. And then Barry Windham has recovered, and he comes in and they start beating their ass. And they just put a whole beat down on these two. And then they start leaving. The New Age Outlaws get in the ring. And they hit a double pile, what's that called? A spike pile driver. They hit it on Cactus. And then, seeing all this going on, Jeff Jarrett, the Rock and Roll Express, and Windham look at each other in Cornette, and they go in the ring and they start beating the shit out of the New Age Outlaws too, because they do not like the Outlaws. Because they represent what they don't like at all in wrestling, which is not tradition. Anyway, so in this story, we have, at the Royal Rumble, in the build-up to the Rumble, Bradshaw and one Raw, Bradshaw and win them have a number one contender match for the NWA North American Championship, which Bradshaw wins clean. And that sets up him and Jarrett at the Rumble having a title match for the North American title. And this is basically to kind of keep him out of the Royal Rumble for the time being. And Jarrett wins clean, no tricks. And after the match, though, he hits the guitar on Bradshaw's head, as he's wanting to do. And in the Rumble, we have a brief altercation with the Rock and Roll Express and New Age Outlaws. Not a whole lot to say there, just the Outlaws end up throwing them out. And the next night on Raw, Cornette says he wants to give opportunities. And he says he's going to make history night, giving the fans a tag team match they haven't seen in 20 years. Or more appropriately, they've never seen. And that's the Rock and Roll Express versus the Legion of Doom, or the Road Warriors. Because they just lost the night earlier to New Age Outlaws. And they're still kind of feuding with them. But for the time being, they have a match, and they lose to the Rock and Roll Express. And the reason this match, I don't think it might have happened, but like not as famously because both were faces for most of the run. Like maybe they faced them sometime when the Legion of Doom were heels. But they were mostly heel, like I think when they were leaving the Bay. But anyway. So this match happens, the Rock and Roll win. After the match, Animal and Hawk start fighting, which actually happened in real life around this time. But it was about the Outlaws. Or I don't know, they lost some tag match, started having a feud, a brief little feud where they didn't get along. And this is kind of establishing that the Rock and Roll Express not only are beating teams, but they're basically starting to set up the idea that, they're kind of ending these teams. So anyway, after this, we get Vader now actually wants a shot at Jeff Jarrett and his North American title. Yeah, so we get a match at No Way Out of Texas between those two, which is now a no DQ match. And Jarrett wins, not really much of anything there to say, but we get to move on to the main event. In the main event, the big 8-man tag. During the match, Jeff Jarrett comes out of nowhere and hits a guitar on Cactus Jack's head. And that'll be important later. But then, so the next time, I'll explain why it's important. No, I'm not booking as good at all. Am I? The next time on Raw, Cactus is pissed off and he wants a match with Jarrett. And Jarrett says, hold on just a minute. He said, the only reason I hit you in the head was trying to make you see some sense. Because in the story, let's say that before this, Jim Cornette was kind of teasing maybe he wanted Mick Foley in the NWA. Maybe he felt like he was kind of old school, but he didn't want to go. And at the same time, he wants Terry Funk. So this sets up that Jeff Jarrett, he acts like he's going to wrestle Cactus, but then out of nowhere he says, no, you're going to face somebody else. And he brings out Dan the Beast Severn, who in this storyline we bring in before Mania. Basically, they start beating the shit out of Foley. But out comes Terry Funk, and then we get a tag match with Cactus and Chainsaw versus Dan Severn and Jarrett. But Severn gets the win on Terry Funk. And after the match, they start still beating down Terry, so Cactus comes with a chair, and they start running. And this sets up WrestleMania for at least those two, for those four. Whereas Cactus Jack is going to take on Jeff Jarrett for the NWA North American... No, I had it backwards. He's going to take on Dan the Beast Severn for the NWA World Championship. And I feel like he could build a good feud between these two. Cactus could cut some good promos. Say like, I've never been the NWA champion. Maybe that was something I want to do. I don't know. And Jarrett's going to take on Terry Funk. He goes back to being Terry Funk around this time. And similar to the match with Vader now, it's a no DQ. It's a falls count anywhere this time. And basically, the story here is that Jarrett really wants Funk to join the NWA. But he doesn't want to. And we also have a brief feud around this time where the Rock and Roll, where the New Age Outlaws decide they don't have enough gold, so they go after the New Age Outlaws. I mean, the New Age Outlaws go after the New Age Outlaws. They go after the Rock and Roll Express. And in the story, they say the only reason they want to win the tag titles isn't because they want the gold. They say, the gold's nice, but we want to retire those old piece of crap titles. We want to put them where they belong, in the past and in the trash. And in the build-up to Mania, the Rock and Roll Express defend the titles one more time against the Headbangers. New Age Outlaws defend them against, Chain and 8 Ball or something. Whoever we have, the Nazi twins. Whoever the hell we have is too much or whatever. Give it too much. You get the title shot. So at Mania, following matches happen. The Rock and Roll Express win the WWE Tag Team title. It's a match for both titles. However, they pinned the wrong person. They pinned Billy Gunn when he wasn't legal, but the ref doesn't catch it. So the next night on Raw, the decision is reversed, except they still keep the NWA Tag Team titles, which is basically what happened in real life with the dumpster match, just doing it a different way. Terry Funk beats Jeff Jarrett in a Falls Couldn't Anywhere match. And this is because I really would like to see Terry Funk have a official title win recognized in WWE. But similar to Christian Cage, yesterday, with him winning the Impact title, it's going to be a title that doesn't belong to that company. It's going to be the NWA title. And I just think that's cool. I'm very happy Christian's champ, by the way. You can tell. That was nice. So, and also, I think Funk deserved a title run. An actual legit one. Because he never had one in WWF. Whatever you want to call it. And in this case, Dan Severn beats Cactus, though. He doesn't win. So it's kind of a bittersweet night for the... Oh, and also they're... to kind of keep the storyline going of the feud between Bradshaw and Barry Windham, Bradshaw gets... He gets a partner. I'm trying to think who he could get. Let's say who we have to face. I don't know. Like he gets... They have the new Midnight Express by this point, but instead of doing that, we'll have like... Briefly, Bart Gunn is teased like he's joining NWA, so he teams with Barry Windham. But then, in WrestleMania, that's the Battle Royal, and then at the same time, Bradshaw gets Bob Holly, who's not just known as Bob Holly. He's not Spark Plug or whatever. Oh no, Bradshaw gets Too Cold Scorpio. That's right, he is Flash Funk. But now he's known as Too Cold Scorpio. He goes back to being Too Cold Scorpio. No more Funk. So they make kind of a makeshift team. He still gets Bart Gunn, though, Barry Windham. Just because I feel like that makes more sense than him and Bob Holly. Even though Bob Holly's blonde. Whatever. And post-Mania, so we get some things going. We have on this Raw after Mania. So Cornette is mad about the reverse decision, so he challenges the Outlaws to another match against a new tag team. He says they're the new team signed to the NWA. And it's just Bob Holly and Bart Gunn, but they're not the new Midnight Express. They were new Midnight Express in real life. He calls them something else, Full Octane or something, I don't know. But just give them any other name, because we do not want to make them Midnight Express. So, that match happens early on in Raw, but the Outlaws win and retain, because at the end of the night they're going to join DX anyway, so we need them to win. And this is a short match, 5-minute match, and I don't like the idea of embarrassing a team on their first night, but it's kind of just to build a story. After this, they start a brief feud with, I'm trying to think, who are the other face teams around this time besides Road Warriors? There really aren't many, are there? Damn. They had like a lot of teams, and I can't think of them many face ones. Anyway, so this whole thing continues for, because after this, Terry Funk left WWE because the tag team match. Oh, that was the main event, wasn't it? It was a Cage Genos too. So maybe that wouldn't work. Okay, so you will still have the Cactus Jack and Chainsaw Charlie. I need to change this. The Midnight Express, or not the Midnight Express, the Full Octane or whatever. Let's call them Full Octane. Glitz and Glamour. No, Full Octane. Make their debut and they win a random tag match against, like, the Headbangers. And the main event still happens, and that's how, it's a match for tag titles, that's how Funk actually gets injured, just like real life, and then he vacates the NWA North American title. And that will be important. So after this, they make a brief tournament where we see Cactus still turns heel and goes for Austin, so we need to have that going. And Jeff Jarrett beats, in the first round, he beats Goldust. And then Too Cold Scorpio is the second opponent, and the final opponent in the thing is actually Barry Windham. Now in this thing he beat Bradshaw and he beat who did he beat? Let's say he beat Taka Michinoku. Taka Michinoku was trying to double up on gold. So they have a match and Barry Windham at the Backlash, and Barry Windham wins the NWA North American Championship, becoming the third champion. Now on the same show, Dan Severn has a match with Steve Blackman because these two started a brief feud after Mania, and Steve Blackman is still undefeated. And Dan Severn wins, but he needs to cheat to win. Or he actually doesn't know he cheated. Cornette hits Blackman from behind when when the ref was distracted by something, like one of the Bart Gunn came out or whatever. After this, the next night on Raw, Severn is mad about this and he dumps Cornette. And then we don't see Dan Severn for a little while after this. He does return to start a brief feud with Ken Shamrock going to the King of the Ring, where they have a match in the semifinal, which Ken Shamrock wins to set up The Rock and him later on in the night. Which they kind of did in real life, but they did it with The Rock and Dan Severn. And Shamrock, I forgot who he beat. I think he beat, no, he didn't beat X-Pac. Who did he beat? And that's basically the end of Dan Severn, like, after that, because he didn't do a whole lot of the WWF after that. So Barry Windham, though. Oh, in the same pay-per-view, the Rock and Roll Express defend against the Headbangers, who win the NWA North American title, which they did in real life, at this event. And the NWA Tag titles, oh. So at this point, the NWA have been a contingent basically about 7 guys. They haven't been that big. But they have been win. They haven't been cheating to win. I should point out that Cornette is not throwing them the tennis racket. They're actually getting clean wins when they fight. With Jarrett really being established, as him and Severin are basically the 2 big stars. Will Severin was just for a brief time. That was just to bring him for a little bit. And they do have 2 WrestleMania wins to their credit. The real WrestleMania, they think they weren't even a factor at all. And not only that, you had 3 titles on the line at WrestleMania representing NWA. I'm bringing this up because I'm about to end it. So, and the final thing we get like that is Barry Windham, and like eventually he just kind of, we have one last match on TV for the NWA North American title where Barry Windham defends against, I don't want to say Too Cold Scorpio because he got a lot of shots at this point. He defends against Farouk, Ron Simmons, because at this point he kind of wasn't doing a whole lot, and he wins, but that's really the end of the NWA North American title in WWF. Like next week we find out, oh, we get a like announcement. Jim Cornette says like, oh, the NWA is done with the WWF. His basic reason will be something like, we already proved our point enough to the people. White tradition is needed, and these people didn't appreciate it. So you know what? You all can come to see a real wrestling show sometime. But he still stays WWF to manage the full octane, for at least a little while longer in the story. Jeff Jarrett, meanwhile, basically just kind of does what he was doing around this time, which I don't remember what he was really doing. I know he had a feud with X-Pac not that long after this. My hair versus hair. And for that to work, I would have him grow out his hair a little bit longer, like have it going back to the long way a little bit. Just a little bit. Well, basically, there's a brief, because there's also a 8-man tag on one Raw, where it's Jeff Jarrett, Barry Windham. No, wait. That was a 6-man tag where it's Dan Severn, Jeff Jarrett, and Barry Windham versus Triple H and New Age Outlaws. Like, this match happens with Dean DX and NWA just because I think that would be cool. And in this one, DX wins, but only by DQ because the Nation Comes starts whooping their ass. So they win by DQ just because I think that'd be cool. It'd be cool to make a match like that. But basically, that's the way the NWA, I would book it. We still get free WrestleMania matches with 2 technical wins for the NWA. And the Outlaws eventually do beat the Rock and Roll Express like about a month later on Raw. They get their win back. And a match just for the WWF title. And the Rock and Roll Express, this would be like one night after when they lost titles at Headbangers. The Rock and Roll Express also gets those titles back before the NWA dies. They win it at Judgment Day. Not Judgment Day, Over the Edge. The May pay-per-view. They win it back there. Not a 2 out of 3 falls, something else. Let's say like an old school rule. Let's say let's make a tornado tag. Like that's something that they didn't do that much around the time. That tornado tag, they win the titles back, pretty easy. And then after that, that's kind of like the last sheet of Rock and Roll Express. But I'm kind of rambling now. But that's how I would book it. From October to about June, because that's when Dan Severn would have his last match. So you got a good 9 months. Well, really it'd be like just 6 months. But for the most part, they were presidents of the WWF. They were getting wins. They weren't cheating. They had free titles. They had free matches at Mania and won 2 of the free. And that's pretty much about as far as I'm going to go with it. As far as I'm going to go with it. But I feel like that would be better. I feel like it'd be a more memorable run. And I kept it pretty true to what actually happened. The only thing that changed a little was bringing Dan Severn in a little more early and stuff like that. But, anyway, thanks for watching. Have a great day.